What's up? Welcome back to the Triple Cross podcast. Today we are talking hoops. We're talking NBA drama, LeBron drama, LeBron. I don't know. Chris Paul drama with Kim K. We're talking Nets. We're talking Pelicans, and we are picking this week's matchups on Triple Cross. Let's go.
Lillard with 47 tonight. Working it down to 2-1. A deep three. Oh! Blazers win the series. A walk-off three for Damian Lillard.
Samuel, wide receiver screen. Good play. Big play. And in for the touchdown.
And Turner looks for the deep left field. Ranging back is Profar, and it's a 1-0 start for the Dodgers.
Second batter of the game, and the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead.
What is up? How's everybody doing today? We got John. I'm John. And we got Casey, and we got Quintonius. How you boys doing?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Gonna catch some NBA action tonight. Got some seats. Got some seats in the lower bowl to Jazz Blazers. So it should be a good time.
Yeah, man, that sounds exciting. Oh, we have visitors.
Yep, got visitors. Got kids coming in. Yeah, that's live podcasting for you.
That's it.
We're gonna
where are your seats, John? Where are they?
They're like 18th row, and about half court on the bench side. So should be a good time.
Sick, man.
Yeah. So we are talking some NBA today. We're going to start out with some drama, a little bit of drama this week. We got LeBron, sort of, I don't know, Q, maybe you should kind of give your thoughts on this. LeBron sort of chastising the media for not asking him. I'll try and give the most straightforward version of this I can. Jerry Jones, a photo of him came out when he was in high school, essentially being a white student blocking the doors of his high school to some black students who were enrolled there in when they were integrating schools and in 1957. And that photo came out, I think, sometime in the past week or maybe 2 weeks. And LeBron this week essentially asked the media why they hadn't asked him about it. I do have a clip. Should we just hit the clip first and then give our thoughts?
Yeah, let's watch the clip.
Let's do it. Okay, so here we go.
I was wondering why I haven't gotten a question from you guys about the Jerry Jones photo. But when the Kyrie thing was going on, you guys were quick to ask us. Okay. Hold on. And I don't even want you guys to say nothing. When I watched Kyrie talk and he says, I know who I am, but I want to keep the same energy when we're talking about my people and the things that we've been through. And that Jerry Jones photo is one of those moments that our people, black people, have been through in America. And I feel like as a black man, as a black athlete, as someone with power and a platform, when we do something wrong or something that people don't agree with, it's on every single tabloid
Did that go mute?
I didn't want to say anything, but it did for me as well.
Yeah.
What happened?
We didn't hear probably the last third of that clip.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, essentially, I think he kind of said something along the lines of, I feel like this is something that happened to us and our people, and if it were a black person, then it would be all over the place, and you guys would be asking me about it, and the media would be covering it because it's Jerry Jones, because it's a white person. It's sort of getting buried it. And yeah, like he just kind of didn't feel like that was right. I'm paraphrasing. Q, would you say that was an accurate, you've seen it before, obviously. Would you see that was an accurate paraphrasing of his sentiment?
Yeah.
All right. So Q, to you, your thoughts on this. This is your favorite player. This is your favorite team.
Okay, so I actually very strong opinions about this, surprisingly. Because obviously you guys know LeBron is one of my favorite players. So it's really tough because I feel, first off, I 100% agree with what he's saying. Like 100%, I think the media is like kind of picking and choosing. Because first off, I'll just say, yeah, he has terrible execution simply because he threw Kyrie under the bus. If you guys remember, originally he had like said in the media that, oh, like Kyrie, like I'm disappointed or whatever the case was. When I feel like, if he's always felt this way that he feels now, where he's kind of like defending Kyrie, which is what it seems like. He should have done that in the first place instead of throwing him under the bus in the beginning. It just kind of looks hypocritical, and people have been calling him out for it over the last couple of weeks. But, on the whole Jerry situation, I think it's like, okay, if you're going to hold Kyrie accountable for posting a link on social media, why not hold accountable a guy who is seen inside of a literal picture of people dealing with like segregation? So yeah, it's really tough for sure. And then also, I mean, this is like an equivalent, I mean, not the same thing, but it's like, now if they saw Kyrie in a picture of like him at a like concentration camp, like then what are they gonna say? Are they gonna treat him the same way that they're treating Jerry, or like what? So that's the way I see it. But yeah, it's really, I don't know, it's really, I feel like a one-sided situation where I think the media is kind of like picking and choosing. Like they really trying to like crucify, Kyrie for simply posting a link, whereas like, Jerry was literally found inside of a picture where it's clear like there's like racial issues going on. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that.
I think the like main theme of your feelings there is like it's all around like intellectual consistency. Like, hey, if we're doing this here, like why aren't we doing this over here? So like without like kind of overstepping my bounds, I would just say from my own perspective, because I can't control what anybody else does, especially something as like nebulous and massive as the media, right? Like, hey, you want to dog on the media, I'm all for it, like, because that's 9 times out of 10, including this one, agree, honestly. And it's that's why I think like podcasting and other like independent media forms are becoming more popular. I think people resonate a little bit more with opinions that we say rather than like the headlines you read from like the big media articles they'll put out, just stuff that's inflammatory on purpose. So from my own point of view, I would just try to remain intellectually consistent, just so that somebody couldn't say that about me. When this did happen to Kyrie, I said, you know what? I think this is like out of hand. I don't think that we need to like go bananas and like just, think the worst possible scenario for this. Obviously this is an issue and it's not going away, but I think almost similarly with Jerry Jones, I'm not speaking to the actual incident or like excusing it at all, but I think there's that context matters. And sure, there's a lot going on during integration. That was like a time that's complicated for sure. But I think we've seen a lot of Jerry Jones since then. And I think those things that we've seen since then, and especially the sum of all those things, kind of speaks more to like who Jerry Jones is as a person, especially in the here and now, than one photo from, it's black and white. Like it's that old, like it's a 1957 thing. And I said this about, Kevin Hart kind of came under fire for like an old tweet once. You know, that's kind of like a thing that happens like pretty regularly. And I just try to remain consistent across all of it. Honestly, I mean, was anybody like confused? Did anybody think Jerry Jones was an angel? Because I kind of assumed everybody thought the guy was a douchebag already. So like, I guess this doesn't surprise me. Therefore, like, you know, it's tough to like, you know, I just try to remain the same as I would about most of the things that are like this. Like, hey, man, like, I think that these things are typically overblown, whether it's happening to Kyrie or happening here. And I think I agree with you the most, Q, that like, I think it's fair for LeBron to have the points he does. I think he's his stance is totally fair. But the only critique I actually have of LeBron is like, I don't think he served himself best with how he phrased it. I don't think it helps him to compare this to the Kyrie thing at all. Like you said, he kind of flip-flopped on that issue already. And I
think he had a stronger point when
close enough. They're fairly close. There's still enough nuance between the things where I'm like, it's not a direct comparison. I wouldn't think that would help your case.
I think he had a stronger point when he just said, you know, hey, if this was a black person, it would be all over the place. But I feel, you know, like that was a stronger point rather than comparing it to the Kyrie thing, I think. So for intellectual consistency, because we talked about the Kyrie thing and we covered the Kyrie thing, I will cover this here. So this is the photo. It is during integration. So we have essentially, I'll read the caption. It says, "Defiant white students at North Little Rock High School blocked the doors of the school, denying access to 6 black students enrolled in the Arkansas school on September 9th, 1957. Moments later, those students were shoved down a flight of stairs and onto the sidewalk where city police broke up the altercation." Somewhere in the back of this, somewhere, I don't know which one of these people Jerry Jones is, because he's like 100 now and I don't know what he looked like in high school. But he's like somewhere kind of in the back. He's not this kid right here with the cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
He's the one with the black and white striped shirt, like
right here.
I thought that was a joke because they all look like they're wearing striped shirts.
No, like 2 heads over.
Oh, this guy right here.
That's him.
Oh yeah,
Jerry Jones was a looker in high school. Side note, he looked pretty good.
I don't know.
No. Anyway, yes. Also, another side note: this kid with the cigarette, like, I want to know where he is now. That dude is just hardcore, right up front. Anyway, yeah, no, I think you guys really covered it. I will say, you know, really 2 things on it. One, I agree with you, Casey. I'm not surprised by this at all from Jerry Jones. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm 0. Like, 100. If somebody would have told me, like, yeah, like Jerry Jones was on this side of integration, like, I'd be like, yeah, I would not expect anything else, right? Number 2, I think money plays, right? Like, I think that, it maybe it's a race thing, and I don't, you know, and I would kick this maybe back to you, Q, for the final word, because maybe it is a race thing, and I'm not saying it's not, and maybe it's partially each, but I also think it's a money thing. You know, I think he has a lot of money, and that protects him. I think he funds a lot of things, funds a lot of media. Like, it just, you know, I think that's how he, you know, keeps things out of the media a little bit more than maybe a Kyrie does. I mean, Kyrie's got a lot of money too, but he hasn't been paid in a minute, and you know, he doesn't have Jerry Jones level money. So I think that's part of it as well. And I mean, that's not to say that the media shouldn't cover that. Like, I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying I think that's a big part of it, not just race, but also money. Q, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think money's for sure a big part of that. But like, back to what I was saying earlier, like, it's really just about holding everyone equally accountable, like, regardless of the fact, like I'm saying, like, literally, if you put Kyrie in this situation where he's, you know, standing at a hypothetical concentration camp, like, he would have been crucified. That's all I'm saying. So, and we all know that to be true. And the thing about it is, like, people have called for Jerry to really denounce racism, and I'm pretty sure he's still yet to do that. And I'm not saying like, oh, he has to do that to prove that he's not a racist or anything like that. But they made Kyrie do it. So, and he, you know, and he did it. So,
so that's a good point. Do you feel like Jerry Jones should have to like address this, make a statement, like have some kind of sensitivity training,
just like kind of something? And he's what's crazy is that he's spoken on this situation, but he's still yet to like say like, oh, I'm like, of course I am not racist, like nothing like that. I kind of feel like he feels like he's above the situation because he spoke on LeBron talking to the media. He spoke on that on a radio show.
What did he?
But
Do you know what he said? Sorry, I didn't catch that to bring into the show.
What'd you say?
Do you know what he said? Sorry, I didn't catch that to bring it into the show.
I don't know exactly what he said exactly. I think he said like multiple things, but he was just talking about how he has respect for LeBron and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just like he spoke on that situation, but he's still yet to like denounce racism or anything like that, which I feel like they forced upon Kyrie.
Right. That's
like
a good point.
Made him do that.
I think you're right, Q, that he definitely sees himself as above like any like scandal like this. But
right.
I just, and I'm not saying this isn't the case, but I'm just hesitant to label that automatically because he's white. He feels that's his right. I think it's way more because he's like,
I think it's because he's rich and I think it's because he's rich and white.
Texas,
you know what I mean? It's
like
both.
he's got all the money.
Yeah, I'm not by any means saying he feels like he doesn't.
No, I totally get you.
White, but I'm
the
saying
issue
the
at
media
hand is racism type issues, so like it's natural. But the only other thing I would say to it, and again, not shooting in bail really at all, but like if you were held accountable as the person you are today, especially at that age, for something that happened literally when you were in high school. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I think you can murder somebody in high school and you're not even tried exactly like an adult, So like, again, that's not like shooting in bail at all. I didn't think that highly of the guy to begin with. So I'm fine with seeing him crucified. I just think this is an opportunity to be consistent. Same thing I said with Kyrie, basically. Like, that's all I care about is I can't hold everybody else to intellectual consistency, but I can try to do it for myself. And that's where all this stuff should start, is like, what are you saying and doing about stuff? So
yeah, that, and I was talking to you about that before. Like, man, if somebody had a camera and recorder on me every minute of high school, like they could dig up some awful stuff,
I think that's true for just about everyone.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, dude. Yes, I completely agree with you, Casey. Like, I feel like any person on this planet probably has some deep, dark shit that they probably are trying to hide and would be terrible to pick out. But like, at the end of the day, it's just like.
But if it did, I would be willing to publicly denounce it and say, hey, I was a kid. That was dumb. I shouldn't have done that, and I don't believe that.
Exactly.
I think it's understandable why LeBron wants to talk about this stuff, obviously,
I would say this is actually one of the more, like, I don't know if he rehearsed that or whatever. I was really impressed with how like that was well presented. And I think he got his thoughts out like pretty well there.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's tough in front of media, but I'd actually disagree a little bit because of the, like, he said, I'm surprised you haven't asked me this question yet. And then he goes, actually, I don't but I don't even want you to say anything. Like, wait, I thought you wanted us to ask you the question.
No, I think he like wanted to say his piece, and it started with, and you haven't asked me this question. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, it's valid the way he feels, because dude, the media asks these NBA players about anything and everything.
I know.
Stuff that's completely unrelated to anything that they have going on in their life. The media will ask them, and they'll be the first person to ask them. So,
and do you think it is okay? I feel like it should just be okay for somebody to be like, I don't know enough about that to give an opinion.
Dude,
I think you know what I mean? But I feel like I don't know if it's an American thing. Like, we just feel like we have to have an opinion on everything, or we're going to be seen as ignorant if we don't know enough about it, or if we admit it. But like, I feel like if it's me, I just would be like, I just don't know enough about that.
I wonder if they can actually do that. Because I feel like if I was in that situation and I didn't know anything, I would not be speaking on anything. I don't have any type of like prior.
And especially as a media person, like, I appreciate that we're talking like the consistency across the two different situations, but I kind of wish in neither situation this would be like the first kind of thing that that the media prompts a player to talk about, because I always think that's like, that doesn't really belong in like the front row, kind of conversation within sports. Like, hey, I want to know what he thinks about his game, his team, the season, those kinds of things. And especially on like their own platforms, like that was like the main thing I said with Kyrie too. Like, hey, that's his own platform. He's in control of that. He should be able to post whatever he wants. Like, if there's some repercussions, that's whatever. I wish that we had a little bit more of a system where like players did that stuff on their social media a little bit more. Like these official press conferences with like actual like media outlets and stuff. Like, I just think that it's weird when they try to stir stuff up rather than focus on the game. Like, I just wish that's what they would do. Like, there's time and a place for politics. And if you like that stuff, you can go on Twitter any hour of the day, and it's rampant with that stuff. And I'm like, hey, when we watch sports stuff, can we watch sports stuff as we're talking about political stuff on our?
I know. Yeah. So speaking of which, let's move on to some other NBA drama this week. I would almost call this more like comedy drama. I don't think it's real.
Dramedy?
Like, at all.
Are you talking about
dramedy? It is sort of dramedy. So Kanye got banned from Twitter this week. He's not an NBA player. I'll get there. Kanye West got banned from Twitter this week.
No, he's a talented guy.
Before he got banned from Twitter, he tweeted, I can't remember the exact wording, but he essentially said, I caught Kim Kardashian while she was still married to him. He said he caught her cheating with this man, and he put up a picture of Chris Paul. And then he got banned shortly after that for other things, not for that. And the update there is that both Kim Kardashian and Chris Paul's camps have essentially said that's not true, didn't happen, and they don't feel the need to like say any more about it. They're just like, we can just say Kanye was lying and we're good, right? Like, so this is another one. Q, I want to kick to you first. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think this is just all fabricated by Kanye, or do you think it's like, hey, maybe Chris Paul, maybe all of those playoff series where he was like close but not quite, maybe he had the Kardashian curse?
Dude, that's so funny.
The Kardashians are particularly fond of basketball players.
Yeah, it makes sense why the Suns lost to the Bucks now.
Yeah, now you know.
I understand it. I get it, because I thought the Suns had that one in the bag. I'm not gonna lie, but it makes sense. It's the Kardashian curse.
Kim Kardashian.
Chris Paul was leaving those games, and he was thinking about Kim on his way home.
About Kim. Yep.
He had Kim waiting for him on the way home from those games.
On the way home.
That's why. Same thing happened to Tristan Thompson. So
I know it, right? Was she with Chloe, or he was with Chloe? No, Lamar and Chloe, right? No, Tristan. No, I don't know.
Tristan Thompson,
they've all dated so many NBA players. It's pretty wild.
I know, yeah. So many NBA curses.
I know.
But I don't know, dude. Chris Paul is married, so
I know that's the thing that's kind of killer, is that like there's never been anything else that's ever come out about him.
Yeah.
But that said, I have heard, that like a lot of stuff just doesn't come out about NBA players.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially I don't really know what to think of it. I mean, especially since it's coming from Kanye, and I know Kanye is pretty sporadic right now. So
Kanye is a wild card right now. Like you don't know what to do.
He is just letting everything rip. He doesn't care what he says. Every day is something crazy that comes out of his mouth. And like Casey said, that guy is talented. He's probably one of the most talented musicians ever in history. And he's just completely tarnishing his legacy. So
yeah.
Hey, I'll say it like this though. Our last story was a little bit about like the media, and if Kanye were as nebulous as the media, like the stuff Kanye says is par for the course when you consider it to like the headlines you're reading the media, right? And we go, like, oh, but they're totally trustworthy. But Kanye could say anything, and people don't even need to discuss it, right? Like we have the exact opposite opinion on the last one. Like people need to talk about this because like the media asserted something. I'm like, the media is no more reliable.
Kanye is
media in general is no more reliable than Ye. All right,
worst
like,
things.
I'll have Ye's back on that at least. Like people act like he's crazy, and I'm like, you know what? He's a particular kind of crazy. For
he's
sure.
kind of a parody, right? Like Kanye is like a walking, talking, like tabloid, like celebrity gossip magazine.
Bro, Kanye wakes up in the morning. He's like,
and he's just like, how can I stir shit up today?
How can I tarnish my legacy today?
Man, all right, let's talk more NBA. We can get off Kanye here for a second. Two teams I want to bring up. The one in the West. Let's talk Pels, man. Who's been watching the Pelicans? No, nobody, because it's like, I don't know. They're in New Orleans.
Yeah, they've been doing amazing. Super.
They have quietly crept into third place in the West. Here, I'm going to pull this up. I got a little graphic here, a little graphic ski.
Okay.
There we go. Present. So pulling this up, the Pelicans, they've quietly crept up to third in the West, only one spot up from last week, but they were in like 10th or 12th. And this has essentially been since Zion's return. Let me read off some Zion stats over the last 5 games. Over the last 5, over the last 4, he's had 30 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists against the Spurs, 33, 10, and 5 against the Raptors, 23, 8, and 8 against the Thunder, 14, 5, and 4 against the Grizzlies, and they lost that game against the Grizzlies. All the other ones they won. So this dude's been on a tear. He's essentially averaging high 20s, double-digit rebounds, and like quite a bit of assists. Dude dishes the ball pretty well. You guys been watching Zion, or am I the only one?
I watch him on my fantasy app because he is on my fantasy team. Admittedly, I do not get a ton of Pels action on screen.
Yeah. I don't really watch the Pelicans too much, but I know he's been balling out. I've been seeing some highlights. So, yeah.
By the way, I do think I sent you. I know we don't normally discuss all this, but I did send you a trade request, John, that I was interested. I thought you might actually accept.
Yeah, you want to talk about that right now on the?
I mean, kind of. I mean, it's about the Pels.
What better time?
Talk about it privately.
I mean, fine. All right.
I know BI is in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So BI has been hurt, and the Pels have been winning without him. Mainly because Zion is flying. So yeah, there's been Zion's an interesting topic that I want to sit on for a second, because in the past month we've seen graphics comparing him to Greg Oden and graphics comparing him to Michael Jordan. So specifically, he has, in his first like 3 years in the league or whatever, however long he's been in, 3 to 4 years, he's played in a similar number of games as Greg Oden. But through his first 100 games, his stat lines, I think his scoring line specifically, is the highest since Michael Jordan. Q, what do you what are your thoughts on Zion here? Like, who is he? Which way is he going?
Dude, I think Zion has always been very promising. Only issue is he needs to focus on his health. Like, he needs to stay healthy. Like, it's cool and all for him to have a little, four game little victory lap, but
that's what's been the whole time, right? It's like, oh, he's healthy, he's cooking, and then he's out.
Yeah, he needs to just stay consistent. That's all I can say. He needs to stay consistent. Hopefully, the Pelicans obviously finish off the season and go into the playoffs so we can see, how they do. But he just got to stay consistent. But he's looking good right now. So
he's a dominant force. And if the Pelicans are going to be anything but that 10th seed that they are so good at being, it's going to be because he stays healthy, right? That's my
100%.
Do you think Casey? I mean, people have criticized his weight, and I hate to do that, right? Like, I hate to body shame. We wouldn't do that if it was a female athlete, right? But do you think that weight has something to do with it? Like, a lot of people have been like, he's too big, honestly.
Well, I mean, I think like the dimensions of any individual player, it factors into everything you talk about the player, right? Like their performance. Like, does that weight help him in certain situations? Absolutely. Like, of course, does it hurt him in some situations too? Yeah, probably. I would say maybe one of the things about the weight is like, as many injuries as he goes through,
when his biggest problem is injuries. Yeah,
right. Like that's a particular like struggle, and it makes sense, right? It's not like, hey, you're not working hard enough. It's like, I mean, hey, it can be kind of hard to like shed that extra 5-10 pounds, even if that's what you're looking to do, if you're like kind of banged up all the time,
Yeah.
And I would just echo, I think Q hit the nail on the head with the inconsistency. I mean, like I said, I have him the man in fantasy, and he frustrates me on a weekly basis because we plug and play players on a weekly basis, and he'll go from like hurt to like blow up game, like blow up week, and then I put him in the lineup, and then he's
hurt
healthy again. But then he does terrible, and then kind of the whole cycle starts again. Then he's hurt. I'm like, I'm about to drop this guy, and he goes off. It's just the cycle repeats like on like a 3-week basis, basically.
The Pels are flying.
To your point, like I think that the health it's a complicated factor that both helps him and hurts him. So I would just say I'm net neutral on that.
Charles Barkley, another guy who's been criticized or who was criticized for weight when he was a player, has famously said
that guy was no good, right? Like
Zion needs to be on the same diet he was on, which is if it tastes good, spit it out. You're not supposed to. The Pels are flying right now, but I think what's really hard for them is how they scheme, right? Because you got Zion, McCollum, BI, Brandon Ingram, who are your kind of three main dudes. From a scoring standpoint, offensively, and BI's been in and out this year, and Zion's been in and out this year. So it's like you're just not getting a lot of like schematic reps in with all of those main guys. And because all three of them are so good, they can kind of carry the load for each other. But if the Pels don't get it figured out with all three of them, then I don't see them making a deep playoff run. That's my take right now. Unless Zion is the dominant force that we all thought he was when he got drafted and he can stay healthy. And I do think weight has something to do with it, because it's this vicious cycle essentially of he's hurt. He can't, maybe do as much. So it's harder to shed those pounds, but he's hurt because he's not shedding the pounds, right? Like that's a lot of force. When you can jump as high as Zion does and you weigh whatever he does, 300 pounds or something like that, that's a lot coming down on your feet, ankles, shins, knees. Yeah. So, I mean, I hope it works out, because we thought he was the next thing. Right. And it'll be interesting to see, because now we're saying the same thing about Victor Wembanyama. So I would love to see these two going head to head, both healthy. Other call outs here in the West, the Clips up 3 spots into 5th place. They're rolling. I said last week, the Clips are one of those teams that if they're cooking, tough to beat. There's one more, there's an Eastern Conference version of it too, that I'll call out in a second. Your Dubs, Casey, we were talking about them last week. They were already on a roll. They kept the roll going. They're in the 8th spot right now, so they would still be a play-in team, but on the rise. Blazers, the worst slide in the league. They dropped from the 5th seed to the 10th seed this last week. No Dame is definitely an issue for them.
Yeah. It seemed like it wasn't so much at first, right? But I think those things have like a short shelf life. It's like in football when like the backup quarterback comes in for a couple games, you're like, this guy might be better than the starter. In actuality, like defenses just haven't adjusted to it yet. Same thing here, right? They're like, wow, maybe we should get rid of Dame. He's not helping one bit. We're better without him. And then you're like, wait, hold on. Yeah, might have been too hasty here. I don't think anybody actually thought that, but
Q, what you think about? I mean, Jeremy Grant he needed that first Dame injury to come into his own. And now he is. He's playing well, but it's not enough. But didn't we kind of know that about Jeremy Grant, right? Because he was with the Pistons last year and it was the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah, he's definitely not like a franchise player by any means, but
he's not him.
He's a good supporting role for sure. So I think when Dame comes back, the Blazers are going to be disgusting with him, Jeremy Grant, and I think it's going to make a good duo.
If you look at how the Blazers are built, you've got Dame and Anthony Simons in the backcourt. I think Anthony Simons is a really good player, but he's not a guy who carries you to wins. You got Jeremy Grant as a forward. He's a really good player, but he's not a guy that carries you to wins. Nurkic, he's a really good player, but he's not a guy that carries you to wins. So they have all the pieces around Dame of like all very, very good players. You got Josh Hart coming off the bench, who's an incredible defender. There's lots of really all the pieces you need for like a top dog type player, like an alpha type player to really like go far. But those pieces do not thrive without the alpha player. None of them are the carrying piece themselves. Anthony Simons isn't it. Maybe in 3-4 years, maybe he could be that good. I think he'll be a solid guard, right? Like I think he might be a Darius Garland level type player, a Donovan Mitchell level player, something like that.
The man hit 9 threes the other night.
Yeah, no, I mean he's good, but he doesn't win you games. There's a difference between putting up numbers and winning games. And
scratch that. They actually lost that game. So point taken.
Yeah. Yep. So that is the West. Moving on to the East.
Hold on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No way. You're just going to pass over those Lakers like that.
Look at that. That's the second week in a row they've moved up one spot. Yeah, that's true. So the Lakers with Mr. Hustle Westbrook have been.
They're looking like a completely different team right now.
Better. Yeah, they're looking better.
Then
they keep this up.
Not ready. John's not ready to go.
They could be a 10 seed. They could be a 10 seed if they keep this up.
The last 10 games compared to the first 10 games are looking far better. Like AD has been actually MVP of
AD has MVP votes and he's a serious contender for it. And the main thing I worry about with AD is health, though, as well. Yes. Do you, as a Laker fan?
Oh yeah, 100%. But if he can stay healthy, dude, the way he's playing right now, the Lakers are gonna get a chip. I promise you. If he continues to play the way he's playing right now, and LeBron steps up and Russ stands up, they can be some serious championship contenders.
You know, if they keep moving up one spot in the standings every week, you know, they'll have the 1 seed eventually.
Yeah, they just need to stay healthy, man. They need to stay healthy.
Yeah. They
Can I ask you
just have a
something?
lot of wild card type pieces. Like LeBron is the only really steady piece. You know what I mean? Like Russ, he's playing really well, but he's just
Inconsistent.
you
too.
got it as a fan. I'm guessing feel like like you don't feel like you can rely on him. You know what I mean? And AD, you feel like you can rely on him if he's healthy, but you don't know if he's going to stay healthy.
Yeah.
LeBron's like the only real steady piece. That's the main thing that worries me about the Lakers over an 82 game season when, you know, the next best option they have is like Austin Reeves.
Yeah. I mean,
problem.
they got
or Lonnie Walker the fourth, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, they got Dennis now.
Yeah, that's true. They brought him back.
So they got some pretty good guards just in case Russ decides to act up. But yeah.
All right. Well, Lake Show, we'll watch it. I mean, we were talking about how bad they were at first, so I'll give them their due. They are the 12th seed now, and they used to be the 14th seed, I think. So
Yeah.
just chugging along. Moving on
John,
to the East. Go ahead.
Gun to your head. Do the Lakers make the playoffs? I already know what Q would say. So
you know what? Kinda, I think so. If they were okay, so if any injury derails them, the answer is 100% no. Any injury derails them for any of those three main players: Russ, LeBron, and AD. Any injury that's a significant amount of time will keep them from the playoffs. If all three of those players stayed healthy the whole season, yeah, I think they make the playoffs.
I think they're one of those teams that's got a pretty good shot at making the playoffs, but it's fragile. Like
that's a great way to put it. It's a very fragile shot at making the playoffs.
Yeah,
health.
Yep, that's it. Yeah,
all relying on health, which is tough to manage over an 82 game season.
You know, I mean, it's that's like obvious, right? In the NBA, but we're talking about Zion, talking about AD. Like, I don't know, is there with like I like to assume we're in a Warriors dynasty. I mean, maybe that's a diluted worldview, but with that, is there like do the injuries of like the big guys, which tends to be the case, it seems like, in my opinion, does that kind of advocate more for like a small ball? Yeah, like that small, speedy guy. Like maybe you can load up on some more of those guys, maybe a little bit less injured, kind of stay healthy for runs. Is that something
I would be interested in if there's any, I don't know this off the top of my head. I'd be interested if there's any analytics on injuries by position, like if it's more common for bigger guys to get injured. Because as you say that, I think it's a perceptional thing, but as you said it, I don't have that perception at all.
Interesting.
I feel that it's like just as common for like anyone to get injured. But it's an interesting point. I wonder if there are any analytics on that. We should circle back to that on another episode.
Or sometimes when people get injured, or just in general, whatever position, but when people get injured, they typically will get injured again and again and again from the same thing. So
yeah, D Rose, man, how good could he have been? Brandon Roy, dude, you remember Brandon Roy?
Yes.
I was thinking about him the other day. I wish he would have played longer. Sometimes I just, think about Brandon Roy throughout my day.
Man, I was like, Brandon Roy, right?
Yeah, I miss Brandon Roy. I wish you'd have played. All right. So moving on to the top heavy East. Call out right here. Look out. The Nets are coming, boys. They've got a winning record. They are cooking. They moved up 4 spots in the last week. Let me read you some stats. Here's some KD stats. The Nets are currently on a 4-game win streak. The Nets have won 7 of their last 10 games. Last 5 games, Kevin Durant is averaging 33.6 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Kyrie averaging 23, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. And they're role players. So Joe Harris over the last 5 games is shooting 40% from the 3-point line, and that's not on a small number of shots. Nick Claxton is averaging 13 points and 9.6 boards over the last 5. He's almost averaging a double. Seth Curry, the lesser of Curry, dropped 29 points on 11 of 15 from the 3-point line. 11 of 15 from the 3-point line against the Blazers.
Oh my God.
Dude, the Nets are cooking. They've got all the pieces around KD. And honestly, I'm least impressed with Kyrie's play. But it's like, hey, you can feed the hot hand. Like, give that dude, give KD the ball.
I've heard he's good at basketball.
Yeah, he knows how to play, knows all the rules and everything.
He's one of the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Nets, I think, are the Clips of the East. So I'll say this about both the Nets and the Clippers. I said it about the Clippers last week. There are some teams where if they're cooking, if they're playing their best basketball, it doesn't matter. Any team in the NBA could be playing their best basketball. They're just, nobody stacks up against these teams. And I think that's the Clippers and the Nets. They just are so talented and so good when they're playing their best basketball. The problem is the Clippers seem to have an even harder time figuring it out than the Nets. The Nets, it's a little easier to figure out for the Nets in their defense. It's like, give the ball to KD and he'll make things happen. Q, what you think? Nets, how do you feel like the Nets do in the East? We were kind of dumping on them. I mean, we were for sure,
but yeah, they kind of went through this whole phase with the coaching situation.
Yeah.
And after that, it was the Kyrie situation. Now everything's, I think, back to normal. And I wouldn't even honestly say that Kyrie's performance has been bad. I think he's actually, been number 2. Yeah, he is. He's their number 2 every single time. So,
yep.
Yeah,
other than when Seth Curry goes off for 29.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but yeah, they're doing well. Still, dude, it seems like we're so much deeper into the season, but we're really not. Like, it's still so early.
No, yeah. I mean, there's a little more separation in the East. The Celtics are starting to separate themselves, as are the Bucks and the Cavs. But I think the Nets are that weird team where you're like, oh yeah, it's Celtics and Bucks, but if the Nets, same kind of thing as the Lakers, but maybe a more extreme version, where I would say I think the Nets could win a chip, but it's a fragile thing, right? Like a Kyrie injury or a KD injury ends that chances altogether, or just weird, like, either of one of those two guys slumps, whatever it is. Also, KD notoriously has problems playing against Drew Holiday. So, I mean, that could be enough, right?
Yeah.
When Kyrie goes off, so this is interesting. When Kyrie goes off and scores more than like 35 points, they tend to lose more often. So Kyrie is a player who gets his, but they don't win. KD gets his and they win. So that's what you want. You want KD scoring 35 and Kyrie scoring 25.
So you're saying he's the Anthony Simons of the Nets?
Yeah, but he's better than Anthony Simons.
What do you mean? He's just kidding.
Yeah. Kyrie could win you a game single-handedly, I guess. Sure. In the East, not really much else to talk about. The Heat in 9th is interesting. They moved up 2 spots. We were kind of thinking like, hey, are the Heat gonna F around and not make the playoffs? And the Knicks moving down 2 spots. I mean, I think none of us are surprised that the Knicks are this, but like, I mean, should we be? I mean, like, they've got Jalen, they've got Julius Randle, they've got RJ Barrett. Like, they have this mid-3 thing that they're doing. I don't know. Like, it seems like if you're spending that much money, you shouldn't be in 11th in the East, right?
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe if you're any team not named the Knicks.
Yeah, no, that seems like a classic Knicks move. Yeah.
I have one here that I wonder what you think. The Sixers. I mean, are we surprised at all that they're still in this like territory of like, hey, what's gonna happen with this team? We've like pegged them since early in the season as like, hey, they're probably gonna come into the playoffs with like a low seed and then like probably perform okay in the playoffs. Do we still believe that? I mean, it sounds like they're kind of going right along that plan for the most part.
As banged up as they've been, I'm pretty impressed. But they've got depth, you know what I mean? So they have had Joel Embiid back for the last 3 games. But when he was out and Harden's out, you're like, oh man, they're not as good. And then I think Tyrese Maxey also went down. But then Tobias Harris steps up and he plays well. And it's like, you forget. Oh yeah, I forgot that Tobias Harris is like a pretty good basketball player. And he just happens to play for the 76ers, where he's the 3rd option. But make him the 1st option, he's still plenty good. So yeah, the Sixers they're like pretty deep. They're like able to kind of play through injuries, play through as banged up as they will get, and they will get banged up with Joel Embiid, with Harden. You're going to get banged up with Tobias Harris even.
I'd like to get my Kyrie on and float a conspiracy theory out here, rostering both these guys in fantasy. I want to propose that maybe maybe that Embiid and Zion are the exact same guy because they do the exact same thing on that like 3-week cycle of like hurt, underperform, way overperform while you're on my bench. Like,
yeah,
same story.
Yeah. Q, anything to add on the Sixers?
Dude, I don't know. I think Embiid. Honestly, wouldn't put Embiid on the same level as Zion. I think Embiid's way better.
Yeah, as of right now, he's far more proven. Yes.
Yeah. But other than that, like, yeah, just gotta
You
stay
guys are
healthy.
taking my words too literally. I'm
Right.
not to be taken seriously on this show.
Yeah, no, I think Joel Embiid, he's like one of those players that drives me crazy because I don't like him. When you watch him, it's like I kind of think like, dude, you should get your like white blood cell count checked. Like you look like you're anemic, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude moves so slow. It looks tired all the time. But
he's like, he must be very skilled because, like, man, the way he moves,
him and the Joker, like no wasted movement at all. Like we don't have the energy for that shit.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
No, that's true. So, all right, moving on. Let's pick some matchups for the week, guys. Let me get this out of the way. Pick up some of the key matchups. Let me get this out of the way. I think I got our picks up here. I do. I'm ready to go. Look at me.
You look especially like your room looks.
You got
like
some like
very
real
vibey.
You got some real after hours vibes going on, Q.
I'm getting like John's like nerd universe. Like you're like a Darth like something. Like
yeah,
get that vibe going on. Maybe it's the shape of the chair too. It looks like it's like
a bat cave.
Yeah, something. You look like either a superhero or a supervillain when it was that dark.
All right, let's pick some matchups here. I think I've got 10 on the board here. Starting with tomorrow's matchups: Nuggets at Pelicans. Interesting one. 2 seed versus 3 seed in the West. I'll start here. I'm gonna go with the Pels. Let's fly, Pels.
I'll go with the N bracket, capital L.
All right, Casey, what you got here?
Short-circuited. I'll go.
We
with
don't
Pels
talk
too.
enough about the Nuggets. I feel like we really like the Nuggets are really good. We don't talk very much about that. We should do like a whole Nuggets episode next time or something like that.
Should.
Yeah, for all those 10 people in Denver that watch basketball.
Yeah.
Casey, what you got here? Nuggets, Pelicans.
Yeah, I'll take the Pels. I'll take the hot hand. Yeah, I thought I honestly might be the only one on this matchup. So.
Yeah, Q. Fly Pels or Nuggets, just slow and steady.
I'm gonna go Nuggets.
Yeah, I mean they're probably the favorite if I were to guess the Vegas odds here. All right, Casey, you'll go first on this next one. Celtics Nets. I set this up perfectly for you because I know you have a bias and one of them's got a hot hand.
Oh, you're gonna get me too. I'll go right into your trap here with the Celts.
Q is the hand hot enough?
I'll take the Celtics.
Sell it.
If you're only listening, John misspelled it, so that's why I pronounced it so funny.
Celtics.
Yep. Ass. I just okay. Yeah, I think they got a hot hand, but if you actually look at their wins, they haven't really beat, like they're winning all the games they're supposed to win, but they have lost some that are like to tough teams. Like they've lost to the Grizzlies, and on those 7 of last 10, a lot of those 7 are like not super tough wins. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Celtics as well. Here you go, Casey. Another one that I know that you'll have a bias on: the hot hand Warriors or the steady in the East Pacers.
Oh, I'm not first up though, right? Are we going to Q first here?
Sorry, Q.
Okay.
Pacers Warriors.
Warriors.
This is a tough one, right? Because you're like the Warriors are hot, but the Pacers are good.
Yeah, the Pacers are good, but Steph Curry, so Warriors.
We are gonna be separate, and I think I'll be on an island. I got the Pacers in this one. Casey, what you got?
You should hop all over that trade I sent you of the Pacers stack. I mean, those guys are going off right now, but I'll ride with the Warriors. I'll take the lowly Steph Curry, which is all I'm asking for in return, basically, in that trade.
The old lowly MVP candidate here. Cool. Yeah. I mean, Howley is having a year. That's for sure. Next up, Pistons Heat. This is an unexciting matchup, but a kind of a hard one to pick because it's like, okay, so who's worse in the East? The Heat are moving. They're shaking and moving. They're probably starting to realize, hey, like we need to at least be like the 8th or 7th seed or something like that. So I'm gonna go with Heat here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be boring. I'm glad we already have one different. I'm taking the Heat here too.
I'm going to go Heat as well.
Yeah. Pistons don't really have anything exciting going on,
At all.
Bojan Bogdanovic? I don't. Okay. Casey, this is a Lakers Raptors. The Lakers are moving. They're playing well. Are they good? And the Raptors are like kind of an okay team in the East.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought I already would have
healthy,
one.
And the Lakers are healthy.
Sure. But I think you know how I pick when I'm on the hot seat. I'm the only one without an island game so far, and maybe this will be it. I'll take the Raps.
Q?
Of course, the Lakers. Oh, no.
I feel like I could tell by your face after I said that, John. You're like, nope.
Yeah,
I'm
no
taking the
island here
Raps.
for Casey. Sorry.
Yeah.
Could
Could read you like a book, Coyle.
Here's another one. Bulls Wizards. They're in so the Bulls are, I think, 12th in the East. Can I talk about the Bulls for a second? How are they not better? You know what I'm saying? Like think about who they have. They got like DeMar. They got Lonzo. Lonzo's not playing. They got Vucevic. How are they? They got Caruso. Why are they 12th in the East? What is going on in Chicago? Q, can you give me an explanation? Why do they suck?
Dude, I don't know. I think they really just need Lonzo.
Yeah, I honestly wonder if DeMar's like the mid-range king, right? I wonder if they're just taking a lot of inefficient shots. And Vooch kind of does that a lot too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a lot of Bulls.
I've watched a couple of Bulls games too this season, and they really just struggle. I think defensively they let a lot of stuff pass.
Really, Caruso's a great perimeter defender.
Yeah, I mean they still just I think I was watching Bulls versus Pelicans. I was 3 weeks ago. They were just letting Brandon Ingram do whatever he wanted to do.
Brandon Ingram does what
Brandon Ingram. They didn't have anything to
nothing.
To answer
That's
to
true. They don't really have that long. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really get why they're not better. There's a team like that in the NBA every year when you hear all the players that are on it and you're like, oh yeah, they're good, right? And it's no, they're 12th in the East. How? 12th in the East is bad. It's real bad. All right. But the Wizards are also on a slide right now, slid into the, I think, 9th seed or 10th seed from being in playoff contention. So I think
it's Q.
Oh yeah, I think I'm pressing this one. I'm gonna go with.
We just shit on the Bulls for 2 minutes. What do you think, Wizards?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Wizards.
All right,
Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal's been off and on. It's really Kyle Kuzma and Kristaps Porzingis. That's another team. Why are the Wizards not better? You got Beal, you got Porzingis, you got Kuzma.
Well, that's an easy answer because they're the Wizards, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but also they're. I mean, the seed that they're at right now, which I think is 8th or 9th. I think that's good enough for them.
That's about the Wizards. Yeah.
No, that's 10th actually, but yeah,
they slid 2 or 3 spots in the last week. The Bulls are kind of a shakeup team. I'm gonna go with the Bulls on this one because they win the most random games. So I don't know. You just got to kind of guess and see what happens. Casey, what do you got?
I really thought you were gonna go the Wizards here, and I could take my island since you won't give me one. But this being the case, since we're split in the battle of Jordan's old stomping grounds, yeah, give me the Bulls. It makes less sense to me why they're not better. So I guess let's go with that.
What is going on?
I'm not stoked about either. Honestly, this one I could have passed on this matchup.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a hard one to pick. That's why I chose it.
It's fair.
And because I wanted to ask you guys why the Bulls aren't better. All right, so this one is mine to pick first, and it is Celtics at Suns. First seed in the East versus first seed in the West.
I like that.
I'm usually I usually have Western Conference bias, but I actually think the Celtics are a better team at the moment, especially over a 1-game series. So I'm going Celts on this one. Casey.
Yeah, man. I hate to just follow up with the same team, but that's where I'm going here. Celts.
Hugh from Phoenix, Arizona, which is where you are currently located. Who would you like to pick in this matchup?
The Suns suck, but this could be a potential finals matchup.
They don't suck. They're pretty good.
No, they suck. So I'm gonna go with the Celtics. Could be a potential finals matchup though.
It really could, yeah. Warriors,
Did you guys read
Jazz.
into the outcome of this game at all if it ended up being that, like, middle of the season?
It's really hard to read into the games over the course of the season because they're
It would
one
be
game.
insightful,
Like
for sure.
those 7-game series really play out a little bit different. Casey, this is your first pick. Warriors at Jazz. Jazz still sitting on the 6th seed in the West. Warriors rolling, but hitting in the 8th seed.
Yeah, at this point, I'm pretty ride or die. Let's go. Let's stay pot
Warriors.
committed.
Dubs. Q, what you got?
I've got the Warriors for this one. Sorry, Utah.
No, I think the Warriors are cooking. I also have the Warriors for this one. They're cooking, and if they're cooking, they're tough to beat. Rockets at Spurs. This is the seller matchup in the West. Nobody cares about this one, but it's a hard one to pick.
Rockets for sure.
Gosh, both teams are so bad. The Spurs are currently on a 10-game. The Spurs are currently on a 10-game losing streak.
If the Rockets could beat the Suns, the Rockets could beat the Spurs.
That's the thing about the NBA. It's like the freaking seller team could beat anybody at it. The seller team literally beat the 1st seed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But they still suck, Doesn't change the fact that they suck. I'm gonna put my faith in Big Poppy. Greg Popovich.
Yeah, you guys
pulling
are
out
making
against the Rockets, boys. Casey, what do you think?
You guys are making it impossible to plant my flag on an island here. But I will ride with the Spurs. Got to turn around this slide that's currently going on, right?
Well, they don't have to, but
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll win another game at some point this season.
Literally on a 10-game
Rockets
streak.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Like when you've only had 20 games.
Like what?
It's like really a lot of games to lose in a row.
Guys cannot. They're about to fire Popovich.
Yeah. No, I think
you'd accidentally win at some point, right?
Yeah, right. Like something. I think Greg Popovich has tenure and with the Spurs, like they can't fire him.
They're just tanking his record at this point.
I know. Like he's like got the most wins and the most games of any active coach.
Maybe it's like one of those relationships that you're like, hey, we don't actually I don't want to actually go through the act of breaking up with you, but I want this to be over. So I'm just gonna like make it bad for you until you break up with us.
At some point, will you turn into dust? Like that's like dude is old, man. He is looks like he's about to crumble. All right. T-Wolves at Jazz. Q, I think this one's yours to pick. Or no, it's mine, right?
Lost count. It might be mine. I think it's mine.
Okay. Casey.
Yeah, let's ride with your Jazz, John.
House Jazz. All right. This is I think Gobert was out in that first matchup.
That one I think should have been John's, but it's okay. I'm gonna go with T-Wolves are trash. I'm gonna go with the Jazz.
They do so. Cat will be out.
Oh yeah, he's out for like what till January?
Yeah, for a minute.
For like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah,
or 6 to 8. I don't know. Yeah, we'll go with the Jazz.
House Jazz. I want this one so bad because it's the Rudy. Like I think the first time maybe Rudy wasn't playing. I don't know, but it's that who wins the trade game. So House Jazz. Mavs at Bulls. So should we go back to me on this one?
Yeah, I guess I stole your turn there.
Matchups of a couple of like 10 to 12 seeds here. These are also always so hard to pick because it's like Bulls should be better, but the Mavericks have Luka. I think I'm gonna go Mavs. The Bulls are like one of the hardest teams for me to pick. I really shouldn't put them in here as much.
Yeah, for that. It's Mavs, and they drop a lot. They drop a good amount of games, but they're one of those teams that you disproportionately want to pick. Like you can live with that wrong pick when you pick them.
I really think. Oh, so what if you're the Mavs GM? Q, like, what do you do right now? Like, you got to be looking for a trade, right?
Dude, I think they're in the office at the drawing board right now, thinking about who
we need a running mate.
They're going to place with Luka because
after
losing what's his name, the dude that went to the Knicks,
Jalen Brunson,
after losing him dude, it's scary.
Yeah,
It's
they
actually
need a
very
running
scary.
mate for Luca. What do you target? Like, who do you target with that? I think you could target like a.
I think Luca would work very, very well with like a really good big man.
Well, that's what they were trying to do with Kristaps, and it didn't really work out.
Yeah, but Kristaps is not a really good
It
big
depends
man.
how good you think Kristaps is.
He's not really like a traditional big man, at least, right?
Yeah, most of them are like that in the league now. They stretch. You think
Or
he'd work well with
someone
it?
that could. I'm just trying to think because like if Luca just played a lot of like pick and roll with a solid big man, because like I'm thinking
I
in
don't
the
think Luca
situation where he has
operates
another
well in the
guard,
PNR.
like what is another guard going to do for Luca? Like Luca does not need help getting the ball. He can get open by himself. But I think if he can just run pick and rolls constantly and like just running towards the basket with a big man, they could do a lot of damage. Because he can hit consistent shots
I
regardless.
think a lot of what they need depends on what Jason Kidd can do as a coach, which I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't he coached for a short stint with the Bucks, and he had Giannis. And what do you do? How do you scheme when you have Giannis? You give the ball to Giannis. And then he coached for a short stint with the Mavs, and he has Luca. And what do you do when you have Luca? You give the ball to Luca. So like I don't know what he like schematically can do as a coach. So I think a lot of it would depend on that. A lot of it also would depend on how Luca plays in the PNR. I don't know how he plays in the pick and roll. He's never really done a lot of it. So the best thing I think that they could go for is like another, like just a load share, like not that these players would be available, but like a Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday, someone who can score, who can play defense, a two-way player who can be like a secondary, like load sharer. You know what I mean?
This reminds me of like not to force a metaphor on this or another situation onto it, but like the Hawks picking up Murray, like kind of what I would consider like an underrated player. Like you want to shoot your shot on a guy, maybe somebody who's got a little like utility to him, so you can kind of like kind of fill in a little disproportionately than like your average player would into whatever gap needs to be filled a little bit more.
Basically, if the Mavs could do what the Jazz did with Lauri Markkanen, and just spotted, hey, this guy's really good, he's just being underutilized. If they could find someone like that, that's what you're saying.
Like you don't have to reach for like the perfect like need that you have right now. Almost just like, hey, don't overthink this. Like find good value first and foremost. Who's on a good contract that you wouldn't mind picking up or something like that.
Q, Mavs Bulls. What do you got?
I got the Mavs in this one.
Okay, so now it's Q's pick first on Celtics Warriors. This one here special for you, Casey.
That's a good one. I'm gonna go Celtics.
On is rolling Celtics.
Boys, we found it.
I was doing that specifically for you.
I declare this land Casey Island. This was a tough one anyway. I'm glad you made it that easy for me, honestly, because if you would have split that, I would have had a harder decision.
Well, I mean, I was just trying to force you into what I think will be the losing position. So.
Yeah, you're gonna lose
Fine
that
by me. Honestly, this is probably where I would have gone had you split anyway. So
yep. All right. Last one. This is an interesting one. Nets on a roll. Pacers really good. Casey, it's yours to pick.
Oh,
Nets at Pacers.
I'm taking the Pacers here.
Interesting.
Taking the Pacers. I think they're both hot right
now. Unless I get that trade, unless I pick up that trade.
Oh, if you accept the trade right now, I'll flip my pick.
Go. Do it.
Q, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with the Nets.
Casey, you got two islands, buddy. I'm going Nets.
Hey, Pacers. I mean, I ended with two islands.
Yeah, the Pacers island's a good island to be on. The Warriors island is against the Celtics, at least. Is like
John seems to really like the Pacers. Interesting.
I do.
He's a big fan of Hallie.
I do. I actually like the Pacers, like as a team, as an organization. I
very
like
highly of them.
Put your money where your mouth is, dude.
Yeah, I can't. So the reason I like them,
that's crazy.
The reason I like them is, tell me if this like rings true to you. Like they feel like the Jazz of the East. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. That's a fair take, I think.
Yeah, like they're always kind of in that like 3 to 6 seed. They're always a solid team, pretty schematic, small market. I don't know. I think that's why my heart goes out to Pacers fans. Where I'm like, I feel you. It's tough. Anyway, that's what we got. That's all we got for you today. Casey, say the YouTube things, man. Take us out.
Yeah, well, Triple Cross, we appreciate you tuning in to this episode, this basketball episode. If you enjoyed it, please hit like on this video. We would greatly appreciate that. And if you like us a whole bunch, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. That way that you can actually represent the TCP, or Triple Cross podcast, as I've been calling it now for the last 5 to 10 seconds. Also, remember to hit the bell icon on YouTube so that you will get notifications when new episodes drop onto our channel. Most of our episodes these days are live shows, so if you get that notification and you hop on right away, you could actually participate in our shows with us by dropping comments into the show. And you have my personal guarantee that if you put a comment onto our show while we're live, we will put it up on the screen and we will discuss it in live time. So Triple Cross, it's been real. And until next time, we'll see you.
Let's go.